And the winds continuing to strengthen. That'll add up to a much milder night tonight compared to the night just gone across these eastern areas. Temperatures much higher and generally staying in double digits. On to Sunday, it does mean a drabber day tomorrow. Much more cloud around in general. Some early brightness across the east, and it may brighten up later across parts of Northern Ireland and southwest England. But only once we've seen this showery rain move through. That could be quite heavy actually in places and spreading up towards the Midlands and across Wales. Again, temperatures mostly in the mid to high teens. Quite windy, but still feeling quite humid tomorrow as well.
We'll see a cold snap. Which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You really could be our next big winner with an incredible £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. But what does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
So I just text as you do and then forgot about it.
Well, I didn't believe it at first. I just thought, you know, somebody's trying to wind me up.
You never expect to win something like that.
Definitely get you interested. If I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB08 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 25th of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
True crime is everywhere.
Yep, next weekend, CrimeCon UK takes place in London. And joining us now to tell us more about that event and the true crime phenomena is former detective Stephen. How do you pronounce your surname? Keogh. Sorry, Stephen.
That's all right.
I should have checked you before.
No worries.
And Nancy, and again, Nancy, what's your surname?
Bourne.
Thank you. I'm showing my ignorance there, but thank you both for joining us. So, Stephen, you're a former top cop. Hope you don't mind me describing you as that. At CrimeCon and other events like that, do you get into sort of the semantics of the investigations and, you know, how... For example, how I was watching something the other night where somebody was unfortunately murdered, but you saw the crime scene investigators trying to work out from which side the person was attacked from. Did the knife come from the left-hand side or the right-hand side? Is it all that kind of stuff?
So for me, everything I've done since I've left the police is about sharing that knowledge of investigations, because if you watch TV, they get it wrong a lot. So what we try and do, I'm not the only police officer there, there's experts, so forensic scientists, psychologists, all from that investigative world, just trying to get across, well, actually, this is how it's really done. This is what we do, not what you're going to see on telly. And I think that's really important. So for me personally, coming along to CrimeCon, I just look at the list of people that are there, honestly, and I'm proud. I'm proud to be associated with them. There are some fascinating people there. People who've really fought for justice for their children. People who are campaigning for victims, for survivors. So it's an event that when you look at the name, you might think, oh, they're just going to sit there talking about serial killers and what they got up to. Couldn't be further from the truth. It's really about what goes on, how it impacts the victims, how the investigations are carried out. It's educational as much as anything.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good morning to you. I'm Ben Leo alongside Tatiana Sanchez, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Great to have your company this morning, as always. And we've got an action-packed show for you coming up.
We certainly do, including Brits are told to flee Lebanon as the government organises more emergency evacuation flights, and Israel's offensive intensifies overnight.
Boris Johnson tells GB News he believes the Starmer government is determined to roll back on Brexit, and he warned the move would be a disaster.
British stars are coming together to appear in a new film aiming to raise awareness about eating disorders. We'll be joined by the woman behind the project.
And as the global fitness phenomenon Parkrun celebrates its 20th anniversary, we'll speak to British bronze medalist Georgia Bell about how it helped her achieve her Olympic dream. and this one might make Ben a little bit jealous.
Oh, yeah?
Is this the best-looking man in Britain?
Who, me?
No, not you.
Oh, this guy. OK. Why do you ask?
Stefan Pierre Tomlin will be joining us in the studio to talk about Tinder, dating websites. He was the most swiped man on Tinder, so he will join us. Is he the best-looking man?
The most swiped man. So for anyone that doesn't know, who hasn't used Tinder, me included, swiping, if you swipe, it means that you like someone and you want to chat with them and maybe have a flirt and then eventually meet up. So this guy is the most swiped man in Britain.
Yes, he's the most swiped man, and he's a model, and he'll tell us all about that. So yeah, let us know what you think. Is he the most good-looking man in Britain?
Is he Britain's best-looking man? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. And also tonight, is it Gary Lineker's last ever match of the day? The BBC, they refuse to confirm or deny a leaked letter which says that tonight will be his last ever show. What do you think about that? Are you celebrating? Will you miss him? Will it make a difference to the show? gbnews.com/your say. Big show coming up, but first your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Ben and Tatiana, thank you very much. Good morning to you from the newsroom. 2 minutes past 10 and the top story this morning. British nationals are still fleeing Lebanon with a final flight, the fourth final flight set for Sunday amid the escalating conflict there across the region. Over 250 people have already evacuated back to the UK on government-chartered flights, and the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, is warning that others need to register now, he says, as future flights aren't guaranteed. Well, it comes as Israel is intensifying its airstrikes, hitting Beirut. You can see there live scenes of the skyline of Beirut as smoke hangs in the air. That's as Israel targets Hezbollah, with Hezbollah responding and firing 100 rockets into Israel. Meanwhile, the UK has said it will send £10 million in aid to Lebanon, and troops are now stationed in Cyprus in case of an emergency military-led evacuation. Sir Keir Starmer is urging all remaining British nationals in Lebanon to leave immediately. Well, meanwhile, Donald Trump has been urging Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities after Iran launched ballistic missiles in response to Israeli action in Lebanon. Speaking at a campaign event yesterday, Trump criticised President Biden's more restrained approach, saying Israel should prioritise hitting Iran's nuclear sites. The former president called Iran's nuclear threat the biggest risk we face and argued that Biden's refusal to support strikes was, he said, a mistake.
They asked him, what do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran? And he goes, as long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff. That's the thing you want to hit, right? I said, I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that what you're supposed to hit? I mean, it's the biggest risk we have. Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. You know, I rebuilt the entire military. Jets, everything. I built it, including nuclear, and I hated to build the nuclear, but I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff.
Turning back to news here at home, and a large policing operation is planned across London this weekend as protests and memorials mark the anniversary of the 7th of October attacks in Israel. Today's demonstration, organised by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, will see protesters march from Russell Square through to Whitehall, with a counter-protest also taking place. While on Sunday, tomorrow, Jewish groups will hold a memorial event in Hyde Park. The Met Police say they do have plans to ensure public safety, with officers in contact with the event's organisers. The force is also urging the public to report any suspicious activity through the weekend, as emotions and detentions are expected to run high. Well, as we heard at the top of the hour, Boris Johnson is gearing to release his new memoir, Unleashed. It's out next week. And in a sit-down with Camilla Tominey here on GB News, the former Prime Minister warned it would be a disaster if Sir Keir Starmer tries to reverse Brexit. Mr Johnson also reaffirmed his belief in Brexit, claiming it's given the UK the freedom to act more decisively. And as for the future, well, he insists Brexit offers the chance to do things better. Take a listen to what he had to say.
What do you think Starmer and Reeves are trying to reverse Brexit?
So if we'd been a rules... This is the key point. Of course they are. Now, if we'd been a rules taker...
Yes.
At the end of 2020, 2021, we would not have been able to authorise AstraZeneca and Pfizer.
Agree.
No, but you keep interrupting this, because it's very, very important. And that was how by March 2021, we had vaccinated 45% of the UK population.
The vaccine programme
compared to
will always
10%.
be part of your legacy.
Argentina has vowed to take concrete action to reclaim the Falkland Islands after the UK relinquished control of the Chagos Islands. The South American nation claims Britain's decision paves the way for it to gain full sovereignty over the Falklands, which Buenos Aires calls Malvinas. Our political correspondent Catherine Forster asked Sir Keir Starmer in Liverpool yesterday whether the deal signals a change to the UK's approach over other overseas territories.
Argentina now saying they want the Falklands back. Can you guarantee that under Labour no other overseas territories of Britain will be signed away?
Look, the single most important thing was ensuring that we had a secure base, the joint US, in particular UK base. Hugely important to the US, hugely important to us. We've now secured that, and that is why you saw such warm words from the US yesterday.
And finally, from just 13 runners to now millions, Parkrun is marking its 20th anniversary today. The global running movement, which began with just a handful of people in London's Bushy Park in 2004, now spans over 2,500 locations in more than 20 countries. Founder Paul Sinton-Hewitt, who started the 5K events to aid his recovery from injury, says Parkrun has grown into a force for both physical and mental health. Now recommended by thousands of GP surgeries worldwide, the weekly events have registered over 10 million people. That's it from me for now. I'll be back with you in just under an hour's time. Back now to Ben and Tatiana. Just how fast can they run a 5K?
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hope you're well.
I've never actually run a 5K before, so I think the most I've done is 3K.
I've done one 5K, which I didn't train for, and I got 19 minutes, 30 seconds, which I'm told is not bad.
Good.
That was about, I said it's very good in my ear.
I did 3K in 19 minutes.
In 19?
Yeah.
So I did 2K more in the same time.
Great. Good, lovely. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
OK, brilliant.
We're talking,
let's move on.
We're talking about Parkrun, actually, because we've got, it's the anniversary of Parkrun today, and we've got a mega guest on. I won't tell you who just yet, but it's an Olympic bronze winning medalist.
Yeah, and she's amazing, isn't she? But
yeah.
Let's move on for now to the Middle East conflict, where the Foreign Office says that more than 250 British nationals have now left Lebanon on chartered flights by the government. The UK has chartered another flight to leave Beirut tomorrow, and the Foreign Secretary has urged any remaining British citizens who want to leave to register immediately.
Yeah, it's on a knife edge, isn't it? We say every week, but it really is. It comes as Israel continues its ground and air operation in southern Lebanon, with explosions reported in Beirut overnight. Joining us now is Colonel Richard Kemp, former British Army commander and former chairman of Cobra, who's in Tel Aviv as we speak. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for joining us. Various airstrikes overnight in Lebanon, including the death of, was it a Hezbollah leader in a refugee camp? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in the last week or so, the last couple of weeks, Israel has basically decapitated Hezbollah, killing not only the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, but also many other leaders. And this has left Hezbollah in a very weak state. It's still a potent terrorist organization, but leaderless. It's going to struggle, I think, to hold back Israel's advances in southern Lebanon, which are designed to effectively push Hezbollah terrorists north of Lebanon, further away from the Israeli border, so that hopefully in due course the 65,000 Israelis who've been forced to leave their homes since Hezbollah started its attacks on Israel a year ago, can now return home.
Now, Colonel, Israel says that its invasion of southern Lebanon is confined to the border villages, but at the same time, it's ordering Lebanese 20 kilometres away to evacuate. So is that really the case?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in terms of modern warfare, 20 kilometres is not very far. Some of Hezbollah's missiles have vastly greater range than that. And so Israel is not just focusing on the very southern part of Lebanon. Of course, that's where the ground operation is taking place at the moment. But airstrikes are being conducted further north against the Hezbollah leadership, as we mentioned, but also against Hezbollah rocket launch sites and other elements of their infrastructure. And the idea really, I think, is to force Hezbollah to comply with a UN resolution from many years ago, which required demilitarization of the area at least 18 kilometers north of the Israeli border. And that's, I think, the minimum that Israel's going to try and achieve now. There's a river called the Litani River that's about that far from the border, and they're going to try and force Hezbollah north there. It won't eliminate the threat completely, because Hezbollah will still have longer range missiles, but it will, I think, probably allow many or most of the refugees from Israel to return home.
Yeah, Richard, 350 Brits left on Mercy flights overnight chartered by the government. I think there's a fourth tomorrow morning. David Lammy says flights are limited, but there are seats available. How many Brits are in Lebanon, do we understand?
I don't know the answer to that, but there's a fair number. And as you know as well, the British Armed Forces are in Cyprus preparing to, if necessary, to carry out emergency evacuations, either by air or by sea or both. And I'm sure that, you know, when you look at what Britain managed to achieve, which was quite significant in Afghanistan when we withdrew from there in terms of evacuating people from Afghanistan, I'm sure there'll be a pretty effective operation to allow all of those Brits in Lebanon who want to leave to get to safety.
And Colonel, let's talk about Iran. They of course sent almost 200 ballistic missiles and fired them towards Israel in the last few days. Do we think that Israel will respond? They've been warned not to by Iran, but that doesn't mean that they won't.
Well, of course, Iran will warn them not to and have warned them of the dire consequences of them doing so. But Israel has to respond. No country could accept something like 200 ballistic missiles, nearly 200 ballistic missiles being fired at its population without a significant response. It happened before in April when Iran fired even more missiles, and Israel replied with a pretty limited response. And that clearly didn't work, because we then had a repetition last week, and including rockets that were fired here into Tel Aviv, where I am at the moment. And although most of them were intercepted, there were a few did land and hit targets in Israel. But yeah, Israel's got to respond, and it's got to respond with, I think, devastating force to make the point to the Ayatollahs that they cannot just fire missiles at Israel with impunity. And let's not forget as well, Iran is the head of the octopus. It's got it's fighting Israel now on 7 different fronts, including in Gaza and in Lebanon, using its proxies. And the only way, really, I think, to put a stop to that, and let's not forget as well that there were missiles fired yesterday, or a drone fired yesterday, from Iraq into the Golan Heights.
Yeah.
So there's threats from every direction, which can only really be, I think, stopped by a significant counterattack against Iran.
OK, we wait with bated breath. Colonel Richard Kemp, former British Army commander in Tel Aviv. Stay safe, won't you? And we'll catch up shortly. Donald Trump, of course, saying in recent days that Israel should target Iran's nuclear facilities. Is that the right response? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Of course, it does risk escalating the entire region, but what other choice does Israel have?
I mean, should we bring our panel in to talk about a little bit about the Middle East, or should we move on to something else? Well, we do have our panel with us today. It's author and broadcaster Jenny Trent Hughes and former Apprentice star, and my good friend Trey Lowe. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. Good to have you both with us on the sofa again. Where shall we begin?
Morning to you both. What about 1 in 50 Albanians are in UK prisons? So this is some really in-depth analysis from the Daily Telegraph. It's not just about Albanians. It's the wider discussion about whether we should copy Denmark and the US and publish league tables of migrant criminals. So the Telegraph reckons that Albanians are top of the list. Then it's the likes of Somalians, Kosovans, Iraqis, and bottom of the list, I guess, the most well-behaved foreign nationals in the UK, Greeks, Italians, Chinese and Indians. And actually, they found that the prison rate of foreign nationals in the UK is 30% higher than Brits. So, Trey, have you got thoughts on that?
I don't know. I get the whole need to publish tables so you sort of get a sense of who you're letting in and how they're behaving themselves. I mean, lots of other countries exercise that right to get a sense of how people are behaving. But I think, especially in light with the recent troubles and the riots, it could be a slippery slope, isn't it? Because it's easy to paint an entire people based on the misdeeds of a few of them, and I think, where's that going to end up? People are going to start looking at British-born immigrants, maybe someone like myself, and start to look at the criminality rates amongst people that are here. And there are so many nuances as to why people end up in prisons. I think it's a slippery slope because why? Do you know?
I mean, like you said, though, if we're looking at the statistics, if we're talking about 1 in 50 Albanians, so that's more than 1,200. If we're talking about potentially high numbers, as you said, though, it could actually help so that we can monitor. Is that fair? You can monitor who's coming into the UK.
I actually find it incredibly sad. Probably because I'm a bit older than the three of you, but it just makes me think of signs in windows saying no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Hang on a minute.
And one would think that we had moved on from that. And I don't think it's any kind of funny, and I think it's very, very lazy thinking, because you're going to say, so somebody shows up at the passport place, whatever. Albanian, so people grow into how you treat them.
But Jenny, you're suggesting it's racist then to highlight foreign criminals who shouldn't be here in the UK. They're in our prisons, costing taxpayers money. They're not citizens of the UK, they're foreign nationals. You're suggesting highlighting criminals is racist.
OK, so here's the thing. Don't even think of playing that game with me. Don't even let it.
You just said it. You said
no, I didn't.
No,
I didn't. So are Irish people? So are we racist against Irish people? Of course not. Nobody's saying anything about racist. I'm not saying anybody's being racist against
what did you say then,
Albanians.
What was your?
There used to be signs in windows that said, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. So in other words, you were immediately classified as unacceptable if you were one of those things.
You're saying it's more like a preconception.
It is an absolute preconception. And they've all kinds of psychological studies that people behave like how society regards them. So if we start regarding, Albanians, criminals, Kosovans, criminals, lots of English people are criminals. Lots of Scottish people are criminals. There are Welsh people who are criminals.
But I guess the deeper argument is these people should be... that people are saying these are foreign nationals in our prisons. They should be deported, which is what the Labour government says we should do as well. I mean, it's not...
That's a different conversation.
No,
but to me, that's a different conversation, because I don't have a problem with that. I don't feel that we should be letting in criminals. I feel that if someone comes here and commits a crime, that they should be sent back from whence they came. And I think that we should check very carefully when people come in as to what their backgrounds are. So I have no problem at all with that. It's lists classifying nationalities.
Jenny, just one more question. Are you not concerned that nearly 30% of foreign nationals are committing more crime than Brits? What do you make of that?
There used to be a saying that I don't remember completely, but about, statistics, lies, damn statistics, numbers, whatever. I don't trust most statistics, and I'm actually really disappointed in the Daily Telegraph because they actually are my favourite paper.
But isn't that the point, though? So because the government don't publish these stats, it's down to publications like The Telegraph to get their own stats from FOIs and do some hard digging. Shouldn't we just be transparent and the government just print it anyway? And then you wouldn't have people, saying, well, I don't believe it because it's
But that's like stats that say, most people in prison come from single-parent families. That's useless.
It's not necessarily us knowing the details, it's how the details are used. And I think it's quite easy that people are going to start pointing fingers. I mean, you can look to... I actually Googled it earlier in the African Caribbean community. I think it's something like 13 or 14% incarceration rates. Now, without going into the reasons why, it's very easy just to label an entire people as somehow inherently criminal. But at the same time, we've got to balance it with who are we letting in and what harm are they doing, because the minute you commit a crime, you should forfeit your right to stay here. We agree. Yeah. My concern is how that data is going to be used to criminalise an entire sector of people. And without looking at a lot of the nuances in it, what type of crimes they're committing, what are the circumstances. Like you say, you can say, people from single-parent homes, people from working-class homes. You can You could break the stats anyway to start to demonise people. So it's good in principle. It's how we use it going forward.
Okie doke.
Let's move on. Should we go into tennis? We both like tennis, don't we? Should we talk about Emma Raducanu?
Oh, yes.
No, it's a switch of gears. That was
switch.
quite heavy.
Not really, no.
At least let's
talk about Porsche.
Why don't we just go to Emma Raducanu? She's had another loss for her as Porsche have taken back their freebie 3 years after her stunning US Open win. Now, I feel a bit sorry for her. She's found that... Now, you might disagree with me.
I'm not going to get involved in Emma Raducanu.
Starlight a bit difficult, hasn't she, over the years? She was shot to fame after her success.
So Porsche says she still is an ambassador. They've just taken away the 911 car that they loaned her. You know, I don't know why, but I've always said about Emma Raducanu, very talented, of course, won a US Open at a very young age, amazing. But my only slight was I personally wouldn't have gone and done all these mega brand deals immediately afterwards because some people in the tennis world feels it distracted her from the tennis, which may explain partly why, with the injury she's had, why she's not had much success since that Grand Slam win.
Do you want to go first with lovely Emma? It's a hard one. Like, look, she won the US Open at a very young age. That's a massive amount of pressure on anyone's shoulders. And who knows who's been advised in terms of taking these deals. If you're offered money and deals, you're likely to take it. I think there's probably a possibility where the kind of, I don't want to say fame, but I guess the trappings of it have probably taken centre stage more than the actual winning of titles. You know, she would have been better off winning a couple of Grand Slams and then doing that. So it's hard to say. I can understand how it might leave a bit of a bad taste in people's mouth because people are rooting for her. Yeah. It's disappointing when you're rooting for someone, you know, British champion, and it's like she doesn't win anymore, she's injured all the time, but you're seeing her popping up with all of these endorsements. But, I mean, who wouldn't take it if you're offered a nice 911? I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, can I say something?
Ooh, here we go.
Because we had a bit of a chit-chat about it before. I will never forgive her because I think she dissed Andy. And that whole, you know, see, like, oh, you see, look at that smile. You were right. Because I said, but I can't say that. And he said, I think a lot of people feel that. So, I had a huge problem with that.
For anyone who doesn't remember, that was when she pulled out of her doubles. What would have been his last.
And I thought that was inexcusable. But on a serious note, like what Trey's saying, you don't take all the candy before you go to the party. She, I think, has not done the way that as well as she could, because she's not done the work.
Yeah.
All right, well, we wish her luck. Well done, Emma. I'm still a big fan. I guess the criticism, if you want to call it that, is because, as Trey said, we just want you to do well and live up to your full potential. But what do I know? I'm probably not very good at tennis at all compared to you. But, yeah, Trey and Jenny, thank you. You'll be back in the next hour or so. And also, by the way, do you recall Boris Johnson? He's told GBNews... Of course, you recall Boris Johnson, the former Prime Minister, who can forget? He's told GBNews he thinks Sir Keir Starmer's government is determined to roll back on Brexit. Look at this.
Rachel Reeves is now saying we've got to go back into being a rules taker from the EU.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
GB News presenter Mr. Patrick Christie's is going to live off £15 per week as part of his Friends of the Elderly fundraiser.
Yeah, so far Patrick's raised over £193,000 with the help of all of you at home and all of your generous donations. So thank you so much for all of that. And thank you, Patrick, for coming up with this and flying the flag, I suppose, for these people who feel as if they're being victimised at the moment. Very, very worried about the winter fuel payment. Just tell us how you set upon this £15 figure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the £15 food figure was based around a conversation I had with a pensioner called Sue in Cheshire, who told me, and our viewers, quite a horrendous story, actually, about what she has to live off every week. £15 is her food budget. Her boiler's gone. She can't afford to replace that. She's worried about whether or not she can afford to even put an electric blanket on. She is essentially too proud to actually officially ask for help. We had to really convince her to come on and tell her story so that she thought, she would do it so that she could help others, really. That's why she did it. So I thought, well, it's not absolutely freezing yet. There's things I'm going to do as it gets colder and as winter proper kicks on. So I'll do a few bits and bobs there that might be more physically demanding to raise a bit of money. But this is something I can do in the meantime. So I thought, well, I'd live off £15 a week. £13.55 to be precise. Left myself some wiggle room in case I want a can of Diet Coke or something over the course of the week. But this is the food shop that I did yesterday. I've got some lentils, a bit of couscous, a couple of tins of tuna, some tomatoes, some peppers, bit of pasta, some eggs, and a stir-fry thing that I think I'm actually going to have to eat today, because if viewers have got the impression that I'm a man who doesn't necessarily plan things through properly, they are correct, because I got this and it goes out of date tomorrow. So there you go.
The People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Right, welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and we have a very exciting couple of guests for you now. A host of star British actors are coming together to appear in a new short film aiming to help raise awareness of eating disorders.
The film will feature the likes of this country actor Paul Cooper, actress and reality TV star Jess Impiazzi, and former Hollyoaks actress Michaela Dodd, who have all been affected by eating disorders in their lives.
Now, this film is being produced by author Lineker, who became a counsellor after her daughter Samantha was diagnosed with an eating disorder and OCD 20 years ago. And Lineker and her daughter Samantha join us in the studio now. It's lovely to have you
Morning, both.
here. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tell us about this film, because it's obviously come from your own experiences. So tell us a bit about that.
You go.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah,
so,
she explains it better.
Oh, no. So we wanted to create something for the entertainment industry that wasn't just another kind of dull documentary. I mean, some of them are brilliant, they're very informative, but you kind of leave a bit bewildered and a little bit kind of flat. So, and I'm quite passionate about comedy, and we laughed a lot, didn't we, during our kind of rock bottom times. And I think a lot of people do that. If you can laugh in the face of adversity, you're very much bulletproof. So we thought, I've got a passion for writing, and you've obviously got an unbounded knowledge on the subject. Why don't we create a film with a kind of satirical look on eating disorders? It's a bit of a risk. It's never been done before. But equally, it's kind of threaded through with a lot of information and awareness about the subject. And also, we've made it very non-triggering as well,
So this came it's been made 20 years after your own...
It is 20 years.
20 years,
practically to the day.
So Samantha, you suffered with OCD and an eating disorder as well?
Yes.
And that's when your mum became a counsellor, is that right?
A little bit later on, I think we spent a bit of time in the system, and I realised that it wasn't working for us. So I took it on myself to learn as much as I could about the subject. And we worked with Sam at home, and our story has blossomed from there.
It's such an inspiring story how you can use I call it a tragedy, probably the wrong word, but suffering.
No, it is a tragedy, because mental ill health and eating disorders destroy the lives of not only the sufferers but their families as well.
But you've turned that into something so positive and so
It's
inspiring.
amazing, really, that 20 years ago our story was just beginning, and 20 years on, we've done what we've done. But I have to say that very little has changed in the system.
I've heard that.
And I think that's what we're passionate about.
Yeah. So the stigma around eating disorders, for example, we've heard of eating disorders for years, but sometimes there is a stigma. Could you tell us what that stigma is and what you're trying to do through the film and your books to change that and raise more awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of diagnosed before it was really spoken about. So 20 years ago, I mean, I was underweight and it went around the school that I had cancer because no one had been informed, really, and knew about eating disorders. I mean, I think it's hard because mental health is so spoken about now. Sometimes it's almost becomes people's identity and it's almost cool to have something when it's quite really disastrous, isn't it? And I think sometimes that probably brings a stigma to it nowadays, is that it's almost overused and kind of used so easily. What do you think?
Well, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think that was why we wanted to... I mean, I work with families every day and I see the destruction that eating disorders and other mental illnesses not just bring to the sufferer, but the whole family.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really passions me, because obviously 20 years ago we were there. And I just feel that so much more needs to be done. And I think with eating disorders, there is still a lot of misunderstanding around the subject.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky, and I will name names of the people like Michaela, Paul, Jess, Ben Jardine, Bobby Davro's in it.
And Sid Owen.
Sid Owen.
Sid Owen, yeah.
He was
Blast from the
lovely.
past.
Ricky, yeah, he's in it. Susanna Page.
How did you get them involved in?
I think it's sort of years of probably networking, but also they're passionate about, for their own reasons, they're passionate about the subject, and they all gave up 3 days of their life to come and do it for nothing.
Well, it's funny because behind the scenes everyone's kind of talking about their experiences, and we've obviously had caterers in and everyone's like, I had to leave the table just because I was going to overeat. Everyone had some kind of link to the project, so everyone was talking about their kind of struggles with it behind the scenes, but then obviously playing different characters that had different eating disorders, so it was quite close to everyone's heart. But I think it is a risk doing a satirical look on something as delicate like this, but I think if you almost put it out of the brackets of comedy, you kind of put a stigma on it in a different way of not being able to touch it, sort of thing. So,
wow, and I think it's Sid Owen's first return to the screen in 8 years. So, growing up, I mean, if you're a fan like me, growing up with,
there it is.
with Ricky and Bianca on EastEnders,
Yeah,
that's
Ricky and Bianca.
a much welcomed return. When's the film due out? It's still being produced, being made now and filmed?
We've still got a little bit of filming to do, but we're hoping that it'll come out Mental Health Week.
All going well? Filming going well?
Oh, it's all done.
Oh,
we did it. Yeah, we did it all in 3 days, so it was quite stressful. But no, everyone. I have to say thank you to everyone that took part, and they all came with good grace, and new friendships were formed. And I think it just was a real feel-good feel as well that they all came together to support the vision.
So it's called A Day with an Eating Disorder. Where can people watch it when it's out?
On my website, which is lyncrilly.com, or there'll be updates on my Instagram, which is @lyn_Crilly.
Amazing. Lynn and Samantha, thank you. I'll say it again, it's so inspiring to see you turn something so negative into something so brilliant and
thank you.
That helps other people.
Inspiring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, thank you.
Well, fantastic. And still to come, how did Parkrun help a British athlete achieve her Olympic dream? We'll find out.
This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel. Back in a tick.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For most of us, today is the brighter day of the weekend. Most places dry, fine with some sunny spells, but a little bit of rain in some spots. Quite a grey, damp start through parts of central Scotland and staying pretty damp and drizzly on the west coast throughout the day. Rain and drizzle on and off too for Northern Ireland, but probably not much getting into Belfast. And for most of England and Wales, as I said, it's a fine day out there, dry and bright with some sunny spells. A little bit of mist and fog around this morning, but that should scoot away. A bit chilly first thing as well, but temperatures by this afternoon up into the mid or even high teens. Feeling a little cooler in the west, though, as the winds start to strengthen. And obviously not feeling all that pleasant with the rain, which will linger for most of the day over the Western Isles, and rain on and off across the Northern Isles too. But for the mainland of Scotland, I suspect most places actually brightening up a touch by this afternoon. Some brighter spells developing across the east of Northern Ireland, but again here generally quite a lot of cloud through the day, and most of England and Wales staying fine once any morning mist and fog has gone. But here comes the rain into parts of Devon, Cornwall and Pembrokeshire by this evening, and then spreading its way steadily northwards as we go through the night. Still much of central and eastern England, much of southern and eastern Scotland will stay dry through the night, but elsewhere the cloud thickening, outbreaks of rain and drizzle moving in, and the winds continuing to strengthen. That'll add up to a much milder night tonight compared to the night just gone across these eastern areas. Temperatures much higher and generally staying in double digits. On to Sunday, it does mean a drabber day tomorrow. Much more cloud around in general. Some early brightness across the east, and it may brighten up later across parts of Northern Ireland and southwest England, but only once we've seen this showery rain move through. That could be quite heavy actually in places and spreading up towards the Midlands and across Wales. Again, temperatures mostly in the mid to high teens. Quite windy, but still feeling quite humid tomorrow as well.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, this Sunday when I interview one of the most significant political figures of our era, Boris Johnson. Nothing will be off limits as we discuss his autobiography, Unleashed, and everything in it.
I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit. And I'm very, very happy to be on Camilla Tominey's show, Boris Johnson on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. and again at 6 p.m.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Mark,
Thank you.
Those two guests were lovely, weren't they? Very inspiring. And I think when we're talking about things like eating disorders and talking about schools, and kids are mean in school, so I think what they're doing is great in highlighting the stigmas around it.
And social media doesn't help either.
No, it doesn't. Social media doesn't help.
Stuff like that.
No, it doesn't actually. Well, moving on. Boris Johnson has warned it would be a disaster if Sir Keir Starmer tries to reverse Brexit.
Could you imagine? In an interview with Camilla Tominey for GB News, airing tomorrow, don't miss it, the former PM said he believed the government is determined to row back on leaving the EU. Take a listen.
I believe that we're great if we do things on our own. I think we're great if... I think that national independence is extremely important, and I think that that point is proved beyond peradventure of a doubt in Unleashed.
Yes.
Because having secured full national independence, we were able to do things differently, such as the vaccine rollout, such as the AUKUS Pact, such as the taking a different stance from our European partners on Ukraine.
Do you think...
And I believe, and what worries me now is that the Starmer government is really determined to try to roll all this stuff back, and it will be a disaster. Unless we keep that proper control, we won't be able to do things like that again. So Rachel Reeves is now saying we've got to go back into being a rules taker from the EU.
What do you think Starmer and Reeves are trying to reverse Brexit?
So if we'd been a rules... This is the key point. If we... Yeah, of course they are. Now, if we'd been a rules taker...
Yes.
At the end of 2020, 2021, we would not have been able to authorise AstraZeneca and Pfizer. No, but you keep interrupting this, because it's very, very important. And that was how, by March 2021... we had vaccinated 45% of the UK population.
The vaccine programme
compared to
will always
10%.
be part of your legacy.
So there we go, just a little bit of a teaser, a flavour of what's to come tomorrow with Camilla Tominey and Boris Johnson's big interview. He also talks about the fact we need to leave the ECHR, we need a referendum on that. Another one, as Brenda from Bristol would say. And he's previously mentioned this week about how he reckons Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli PM, bugged his bathroom with a listening device on a trip to London.
Israel's been bugging people for years, but I don't know. Is that true? Is it
Well,
not?
I mean, Mossad, you saw what they did with the walkie-talkies, didn't you? And the pagers and Hezbollah.
Another thing, Boris talks about how when he got Brexit done, it helped get the Pfizer vaccine and AstraZeneca out to the people, and we jabbed 45% of the public, I think.
Oh, more than that. I think it was about 90%.
Did he not say 45%? You think he said 45%?
I think it was 90%. Off the top of my head, I think it's about 90% of Brits had 2 jabs.
Well, to my point then, knowing what we know now, maybe you, the viewers at home, can tell us what you think. Is that even a good thing?
What, in terms of what, the safety of
COVID jabs,
vaccines and so on? I mean, he'd argue that they saved millions of lives, and there was some reports saying they saved tens of millions of lives, if you believe that. I don't know, do your own research, but the medical agencies will say, of course, they were effective. Interesting point, actually. Donald Trump says the same thing in America. He calls himself the father of the vaccine, and lots of his MAGA base are saying, Donald, just don't mention that because it's not going to win you any new votes. I don't know why you're trying to mention it. His point, Donald Trump's point, is that, yes, I introduced the vaccines, I got them delivered at record speed, but unlike Joe Biden, I didn't mandate them. Joe Biden mandated at least 9 million government workers and contractors, forcing them to have the vaccines, similar to what they tried to do here in the UK with the NHS workers, which was eventually scrapped by Sajid Javid. Guys, take it as a blast from the past, isn't it, the COVID days? I'd rather not think about it, to be honest.
My only thing is that knowing what we know now, you know,
was it a good thing?
A good thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people say the AstraZeneca was much less effective than we thought it was initially. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, and also Boris, one more thing, very interesting. He said that the late Queen Elizabeth II had bone cancer. It's been mooted at some points in previous months. He said that she did, and also he was sort of quite poignant when he talked about how he would go and visit the Queen for these weekly meetings, and he found it almost therapeutic, which was quite nice.
Lots of exciting topics.
Yeah, so big show with Boris and Camilla tomorrow morning. Do not miss it from 9 a.m. only on GB News.
Yes. Well, next, love them or hate them, online dating apps are still the go-to for millions of British adults, with 1 in 10 using them to look for a romantic connection.
Yes, are you one of them? Let us know. But with many apps introducing subscription fees and complex algorithms, the world of online dating has never been harder to navigate. So who better to join us to discuss this than Mr. Tinder himself, Stefan Pierre Tomlin, who, Stefan, good morning.
Hi, Ben. How you
Welcome
doing?
to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You have been dubbed Britain's best-looking eligible bachelor.
Yeah, I have.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, so this happened back in 2016. Got an email from Tinder, and it was like, you're the most swiped man on Tinder. I flew back, I was in Ireland at the time, flew back to London, done a massive photo shoot with Cosmopolitan magazine, went back to Ireland, and I remember getting back in January, and it just exploded. It was mental.
So just explain to us, for viewers who don't know, what is swiping? What does that mean on Tinder?
Yeah, so on Tinder, the app, if you swipe left, that means you don't like the person in front of you, and if you swipe to the right, that means you like that person.
So a lot of people swiped right.
Right, yeah, that's right. And you can super swipe upwards as well, but I'm not sure about the statistics on that one. But yeah, I'm the most right swiped man.
The right, yeah, oh yeah, of course, not the most right swiped man on Tinder. Do you mind still being associated with that? It's a good thing.
Well, I mean, it made me who I am now, and I love sharing how I was successful, and now I'm like a dating expert. So yeah, I'm like the Hitch. I'm the Got Kwan of dating now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've monetised that, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
So where has it taken you then? So you've got movies coming out, you do modelling, you're at Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I've been a model for 16 years signed. With MOT and another mother at the minute. I've done London Fashion Week a couple of weeks ago. I got booked for Milano, which I couldn't make because I was in Mallorca, and then I went straight to Paris, so I've been busy boy.
So I want to know, as Britain's best-looking man and most swiped on Tinder,
that's kind of you. Thank you.
What's your no tip? I'm happily married. What's your situation now? Are you with anyone? Are you still single? Paying the bill?
So I'm seeing someone at the minute. Things are going well. And I'm a dating expert, so I'm always giving advice to people
Does she know your title of most swiped?
Of course, who doesn't? It's quite hard. It's quite hard being the most swiped man on Tinder because you get a label on you. So I find it harder than anyone else, to be honest.
And where did you meet her? That's the big question.
At an event.
So not on Tinder?
Not on Tinder, ironically. Yeah.
So for all that troubled online, there's actually a real life rendezvous. Which
I mean, I have met people on Tinder in the past, and it has worked. Well, it didn't work, but
What does she think about this new show that you're doing? You've got a movie coming up, a show, is that right?
So about 4 months ago, I filmed Rich Holiday, Poor Holiday on Channel 5. So that's out now. Really good watch. I've filmed a comedy drama called Body Count, which is going on one of the big streaming platforms next year. That's a comedy drama on dating apps, and I've got a main role in that. And I've also been given a role in a film called My Best Friend with a guy called Billy Joe. He's an actor and writer, and I've got a main role. I'm acting Morris, the teacher. So, big 45-page script.
And this has all come from being spotted. Social other dating apps are available, have to say that. But, all coming from that. That's really exciting.
I've been going to quite a lot of premieres as well last couple of years. So, mingling with all the film directors and stuff.
I have to ask you to do this before we wrap up or anything. I need to know how to do the famous Stefan Smolder.
Oh, right,
Down the barrel. Down the barrel.
Down the barrel. Okay,
teach us.
Yeah, sure. So you just bite your cheeks in like this, but you've got to relax the lips. Yeah, so it's like this. And then that camera is not a camera. That is your best friend, that's your lover. So you really smile from the camera, so it goes like this. Blue
All right, there we go. Nice finale. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, Ben.
Good luck with all your projects, and maybe or maybe not see you on Tinder sometime soon. Hopefully, love works out for you.
Thank you so much,
Stefan.
Ben. Cheers, nice one.
Still to come, as the global fitness phenomenon Parkrun celebrates its 20th anniversary, we'll speak to British bronze medalist Georgia Bell about how it helped her achieve her Olympic dream.
This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News. Back in just a tick.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm going to see your show, Behind the Shoulder Pads, one night only at the Adelphi Theatre, October the 22nd. You're talking about your extraordinary life. Stage, screen, published author, 19 books. TV, most important.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who's managed to straddle, 7-8 decades in showbiz and still be at the top?
Yes, I was thinking about that the other day because somebody said, the last girl. There is a Shirley MacLaine.
Sure.
She started the same time as me.
Right.
Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
She started around the same time.
She's not working much, though.
It's true, she's not, but she's still out there being, a major icon. And of course, people like Dick Van Dyke, who's just almost 100.
Yeah, he's incredible, isn't he?
I'm a mere babe next to him.
Yeah, you are. But and I was thinking about, you've written some extraordinary, wicked, waspish diaries, which of course you can because you've worked with so many people. Look at the names: Frank Sinatra, Lana Turner, Elizabeth Taylor, Dean Martin, Gregory Peck,
Richard Burton,
Paul Newman. The list goes on and on. And Gene Kelly, my favourite. Was he your favourite?
Yes.
Why?
Because I saw him in a movie when I was a little girl called For Me and My Gal with Judy Garland, and I just fell in love with him. It's such a cute movie. Well, they don't make movies like that anymore. And then I was lucky enough when I first went to Hollywood at age 20 to meet him and literally hang out with him and his friends. And then I put him in a movie with me that I produced. He played my husband in a movie called Sins. And he was wonderful. He was really wonderful.
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Ben and Tatiana. Now, from just 13 runners to millions, Parkrun is marking its 20th anniversary today. The global running phenomenon began with just a handful of people in London's Bushy Park in 2004, but now it spans over 2,500 locations in 23 countries. Can't believe that, massive.
And it's even been credited with helping British athlete Georgia Bell achieve her Olympic dream.
And we're delighted to say Georgia joins us now. Good morning, Georgia. Your story is incredible. Just remind us of it. You quit running in, was it 2017? Because I mean, to be quite frank, your body was knackered, you had injuries, you thought you couldn't go on anymore. But then you started running again at Parkrun in 2022. And of course, this summer at the Olympics, you won bronze.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it has been a bit of a journey. And yeah, there was a period of time where I stopped running completely. Never thought I would run on the track again. And then Parkrun was just something I got into with my friends, my family, just local community. And I started to see the improvements that led me to get back in contact with my old coach and just worked my way back up to elite level running and got a bronze medal this summer in Paris.
Did you ever think that would happen when you were beginning to take part in parkruns again? Did you ever think you'd be winning bronze in the 1,500 metres at the Olympics?
No, not at all. It would have been absolutely bonkers, I think, to think that at the time. Like, it was just going for an easy 5K. And it was a level of competitiveness, but it's more like you against yourself. And yeah, it was just building my way up, but it was all about finding happiness in running again. And that's really what Parkrun does, I think, really well.
And can you just tell us in the audience what had happened to you in 2017 when you say your body was broken?
So I had been like a good junior athlete. I had gone over to the US on a track scholarship at university, and I just experienced so many different injuries. So various stress fractures in my shins, and I just graduated and just thought there's no way I can run anymore. So took a big break. And then, yeah, over the past few years, I just got back into running slowly, built it up, and Parkrun is just something that is on every Saturday. So many parks across the UK, very accessible, free. So it was just a really good way to get back into a fun but semi-level of competitive running. And so, yeah, it was just a bit of a process.
Why Parkrun? Is it because there's a camaraderie there and you get to run with other people?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I've done Parkrun with my parents, I've done it with my friends. There's people there with dogs, with babies. The volunteers are always so upbeat. There's so many places across the UK that you can do it. So no matter if you're away for a weekend or traveling, like there's still an option to go and do a Parkrun. So yeah, it was just something to really look forward to. And I think it's just no matter who you are, whether you're a professional athlete like me or someone brand new to running, there's just a whole community there to get people into exercising on a Saturday morning.
Georgia, what was your first time when you returned to running in 2022 at Parkrun? What was your 5K time?
So I think my fastest Parkrun time that I've ever done, I think, is about just over 16 minutes. I think I did like a 16:10 or something like that. And that was when I realised that.
Oh, has she gone? I think she's gone. 16 minutes, that's amazing. And Georgia Bell is amazing as well. What a story. Crocked in 2017, Parkrunned it in 2022, and then lifting the bronze medal in the Summer Olympics. Your 5K time is what, sorry? Have you ever done one?
No.
No.
It's not about me, it's about Georgia Bell.
Oh,
it's
well,
actually quite interesting to see what she does next, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. OK, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Big second hour coming up. More of Boris Johnson's preview interview tomorrow. For now, here's your weather. We'll be back in just a tick.
There
There'll be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For most of us, today is the brighter day of the weekend. Most places dry, fine with some sunny spells, but a little bit of rain in some spots. Quite a grey, damp start through parts of central Scotland and staying pretty damp and drizzly on the west coast throughout the day. Rain and drizzle on and off too for Northern Ireland, but probably not much getting into Belfast. And for most of England and Wales, as I said, it's a fine day out there, dry and bright with some sunny spells. A little bit of mist and fog around this morning, but that should scoot away. A bit chilly first thing as well, but temperatures by this afternoon up into the mid or even high teens. Feeling a little cooler in the west though as the winds start to strengthen. And obviously not feeling all that pleasant with the rain, which will linger for most of the day over the Western Isles and rain on and off across the Northern Isles too. But for the mainland of Scotland, I suspect most places actually brightening up a touch by this afternoon. Some brighter spells developing across the east of Northern Ireland, but again here generally quite a lot of cloud through the day and most of England and Wales staying fine once any morning mist and fog has gone. But here comes the rain into parts of Devon, Cornwall and Pembrokeshire by this evening and then spreading its way steadily northwards as we go through the night. Still much of central and eastern England, much of southern and eastern Scotland will stay dry through the night. But elsewhere the cloud thickening, outbreaks of rain and drizzle moving in and the winds continuing to strengthen. That'll add up to a much milder night tonight compared to the night just gone across these eastern areas. Temperatures much higher and generally staying in double digits. On to Sunday, it does mean a drabber day tomorrow, much more cloud around in general. Some early brightness across the east and it may brighten up later across parts of Northern Ireland and southwest England, but only once we've seen this showery rain move through. That could be quite heavy actually in places and spreading up towards the Midlands and across Wales. Again, temperatures mostly in the mid to high teens, quite windy, but still feeling quite humid tomorrow as well.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win a whopping £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having £3,000 each month for an entire year. Extra cash in your bank account that you can do whatever you like with. Take a year off and keep it to yourself. You don't even need to tell the taxman, as it's totally tax-free. For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB08, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 25th of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, this Sunday when I interview one of the most significant political figures of our era, Boris Johnson. Nothing will be off limits as we discuss his autobiography, Unleashed, and everything in it.
I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit. And I'm very, very happy to be on Camilla Tominey's show, Boris Johnson on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. and again at 6 p.m.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, I'm Ben Leo alongside Tatiana Sanchez, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Great to have your company again this morning, and we have an action-packed show for you.
We do indeed. Brits are told to flee Lebanon as Israel's offensive organises more emergency evacuation flights overnight.
Boris Johnson tells GB News he believes the Starmer government is determined to roll back on Brexit and warns the move would be a disaster.
And from living on the streets to running a £5 million law firm, we'll speak to entrepreneur Adam Pope about his inspirational journey and the secrets to achieving success.
And Taylor Swift has made an unexpected and generous donation to a UK charity. We'll have all of the details on that and all of the latest showbiz news.
Thanks for joining us this morning. And of course, we're going to be getting stuck into this big mystery surrounding the BBC at the moment. Is tonight going to be Gary Lineker's, St. Gary, as some of you would call him, his last ever show on Match of the Day? There was this leaked letter, wasn't there, Tatiana? Anyway, oh, careful.
I'm falling.
Have you been on the spirits?
It's not been confirmed or denied, has it really?
No, so the BBC had this leaked letter saying tonight was going to be Gary's last show. He's, of course, paid £1.3 million of licence fee money. And the Beeb, instead of saying, no, absolutely rubbish, they've just refused to confirm or deny. And instead, according to the Times this morning, launched a manhunt to find out where this letter came from.
Who's leaked it?
You would have thought, I mean, Gary Lineker, will he be missed on Match of the Day?
I would say yes, absolutely. He's been the face of it for so many years, hasn't he? But he's also drawn up some controversy over the last few years as well, so there might be some differing opinions on that.
Massive wage bill, though, just for saying, here's the footy.
I think he's the most highest paid BBC presenter, is that right?
Yeah, £1.3 million of licence fee money. I think it was being renegotiated to £1 million, but regardless, tonight could be his last ever show.
And if he does go, who do you think should replace him?
Yeah, let us know, gbnews.com/your say. But before we do anything else, Sam Francis has all your news headlines.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 11 o'clock. We start this hour in the Middle East, where British nationals are still fleeing Lebanon, with the final flight set for Sunday, tomorrow, amid the escalating conflict across the region. Over 250 people have already evacuated back here to the UK on government-chartered flights, with the Foreign Secretary David Lammy now warning others to register as soon as possible, as future flights aren't guaranteed. Well, it comes as Israel intensifies its airstrikes hitting Beirut and Hezbollah targets, while Hezbollah, in response, has fired 100 rockets into Israel. Meanwhile, the UK says it will send £10 million in aid to Lebanon. And troops are also now stationed in Cyprus in case of an emergency military-led evacuation if Beirut airport closes. Sir Keir Starmer's urging all remaining British nationals in Lebanon to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is urging Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities after Iran launched ballistic missiles in response to Israeli action in Lebanon. Speaking yesterday at a campaign event, Trump criticised President Biden's more restrained approach, saying Israel should prioritise hitting Iran's nuclear sites. The former president called Iran's nuclear threat the biggest risk we face and argued that Biden's refusal to support any strikes was a mistake.
They asked him, what do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran? And he goes, as long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff. That's the thing you want to hit, right? I said, I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that what you're supposed to hit? I mean, it's the biggest risk we have. Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. You know, I rebuilt the entire military. Jets, everything. I built it, including nuclear, and I hated to build the nuclear, but I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff.
People will be out on the streets in bigger numbers. That's the warning from Ben Jamal, head of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, as pro-Palestine marches are set to continue this weekend across the UK. The 20th National March for Palestine is set to take place in London today, with numbers expected to rise beyond recent rallies, which drew up to 100,000 people. Jamal says protests will persist until action is taken against Israel, highlighting concerns about Britain's military involvement and the potential for a major war. Organisers say the marches aim to show solidarity, galvanise support and create political pressure. Well, the largest march last November saw around 1 million people take part. News just into us in the last hour or so that Ukraine says it will prepare to reveal its victory plan at a meeting with its allies in Germany on the 12th of October. President Zelensky says that plan will outline clear steps to ending the conflict with Russia after nearly 1,000 days of war. While the details are still private, US officials suggest it is just a revised call for more military aid and long-range missile capabilities. The White House has expressed its support, but concerns still linger about the lack of a thorough strategic framework. Here, Boris Johnson is gearing up to release his new memoir titled Unleashed, due out next week. And in a sit-down with Camilla Tominey on GB News, the former Prime Minister warned it would be a disaster if Sir Keir Starmer tries to reverse Brexit. Mr Johnson also reaffirmed his belief in Brexit, claiming it's given the UK freedom to act more decisively. And as for the future, well, he insists Brexit offers the chance to do things better. Take a listen to what he had to say.
What do you think Starmer and Reeves are trying to reverse Brexit?
So if we'd been a rules... This is the key point. If we... Yeah, of course they are. Now, if we'd been a rules taker...
Yes.
At the end of 2020, 2021, we would not have been able to authorise AstraZeneca and Pfizer.
Agree.
No, but you keep interrupting this because it's very, very important. And that was how, by March 2021, we had vaccinated 45% of the UK population.
The vaccine programme
compared to
will always
10%.
be part of your legacy.
A family in Lancashire say they are heartbroken after police mistakenly euthanised their XL bully dog called Bruno. Lancashire police admitted the error, saying Bruno was put down due to an administration mistake while his owners were seeking an exemption to keep him. The force has issued their unreserved apology and vowed to change its processes to prevent it from happening again. A local MP in the area is calling for answers, describing the incident as a never event that shouldn't have occurred. The family is now demanding more transparency on how the police will ensure it doesn't happen again. The Northern Lights could soon put on a dazzling display across the UK. Recent solar flares are expected to make the Aurora Borealis visible, with the best chances to see it in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Tonight has the greatest likelihood of sightings, especially late between 11 p.m. and midnight. Experts advise finding dark skies and looking north to maximise your chances, as intense solar activity could push the lights further south. NASA has also confirmed a powerful solar flare on Thursday of this week, which is driving that increase in geomagnetic activity. And finally, thousands of motorcyclists are revving their engines today as they gather for a heartfelt tribute. Riders from across the UK are converging on the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire for the annual Ride to the Wall. The event honours the names engraved on the Armed Forces Memorial there, celebrating the bravery of those who served. Since 2008, motorcyclists of all ages have joined the unique pilgrimage, showing solidarity and remembrance. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for a roundup in about half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. 11:08, Ben and Tatiana with you on Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News.
Well, the Foreign Office says more than 250 British nationals have left Lebanon on flights chartered by the UK government. The The UK has chartered another flight to leave Beirut tomorrow, and the Foreign Secretary has urged any remaining British citizens who want to leave to register immediately.
Yes, David Lammy said there was, I think the quotes was, there are few or limited flights, but there are still seats. So if you happen to be watching GB News from Lebanon now and you want to get out, then yes, do so, make some action. It comes, of course, as Israel continues its ground and air operation in southern Lebanon, with explosions reported in Beirut overnight. And joining us now is Samuel Romani, who's a Middle East analyst and associate fellow at the Defence and Security think tank RUSI. Thank you for joining us this morning. What's the situation here then? What is the risk, I guess, of escalation? And will we eventually see a response from Israel to Iran, a retaliation to those 200-odd ballistic missiles the other night?
Well, I think that the retaliation has already begun. I think that you're already seeing the escalation of Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon. There's been major blasts that have been reported now in Beirut, and they're demanding evacuations for up to the 30 villages in the south and potentially 70 towns overall across the country. So there's been a lot of movements over here, and 300,000 people have already left or crossed into Syria. Moreover, there's a possibility of retaliations against Iran that could take the form of subterfuge operations like we saw them launch against Haniyeh, or basically strikes on oil or nuclear facilities.
Trump is suggesting that Israel should strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Would that be a good idea?
Well, it's something that's been discussed on and off in the past. It was probably last discussed with this intensity, around 2011, 2012, which was about a year before significant progress was made on the nuclear interim agreement that eventually led to the JCPOA. It was during Ahmadinejad's presidency. But back at that time, the Americans dissuaded the Iranians from carrying that out. And I suspect that the American administration, at least the Biden administration, will dissuade them again, in part because it might increase the risk of an asymmetric Iranian response. So the Iranians might respond, for example, by weaponizing oil, by maybe blocking the Strait of Hormuz or targeting Saudi oil facilities or doing something that would be very deleterious to Western economies if they're seen to be supporting those kind of operations.
Samuel, you mentioned there the US government. Does the US President Joe Biden have a plan, or is he just waiting like the rest of us?
Well, I mean, I think that the U.S. was hoping that diplomacy was going to be able to prevent us from getting to this point of escalation. There was a flurry of diplomatic exchanges that were occurring, basically that were aimed at preventing the blowout of a conflict in southern Lebanon. So 5-kilometer evacuation of Hezbollah forces from southern Lebanon, clearing some space in the hopes that the Israelis would accept that and not escalate. The Americans were clearly hoping for some kind of a breakthrough in some of the Gaza ceasefire negotiations, especially with respect to the safety of the hostages. But none of those things transpired. Those border delimitation agreements didn't work. The ground invasion of Lebanon began, and Gaza is nowhere near a situation where there's going to be a ceasefire, as many of the hostages have turned up dead. So I think that the Americans have tried a lot of diplomacy, but all the diplomacy so far has failed. And I don't think that Biden wants to break with it now, though, of course. We're so close to an election.
OK, Samuel Romani, Middle East analyst and associate fellow at the Defence and Security think tank RUSI. Thank you for joining us this morning. There's a massive pro-Palestine march in London today. According to the PA news agency, around 100 activists have gathered in London's Bedford Square. That's in central London. There's going to be an even bigger march through town. There's a heavy police presence. The atmosphere apparently remains peaceful, but get this, there were some activists holding Lebanese and Iranian flags. And a musician has been singing "Palestine will be free from the river to the sea," which some would suggest is anti-Semitic, calling for the destruction of Israel. Those who sing it say it doesn't mean that. But yeah, some activists in London today at this protest are holding Lebanese and, I guess even worse, Iranian flags. Hopefully we'll have some pictures of that as the day develops. I mean...
We've been seeing those protests for months now, haven't we?
Does it shock you anymore?
Does it?
Iranian flags?
Do we think that it would do anything? Help at all? I mean, we must protest if there's something to protest about. I'm not against protest at all.
Well, I don't know what holding Iranian flags achieves, because Iran is as Colonel Richard Kemp said earlier, the tentacles behind all these terrorist groups, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. They are the ones funding these terrorist groups. So when you've got people in Britain protesting in favour of Iran, a national enemy against us, who are happy to... I mean, the Houthis bombed with a drone, an air-to-surface missile drone, just a few days ago, I think it was yesterday, in the Gulf of Aden, a British registered oil tanker.
The US has, of course, fired back just last night, didn't they? They targeted some Houthi military capabilities in Yemen, in Sana'a. So,
who are these people? Who are these people in London, in Britain, holding Iranian flags in this context? You know, they're funding terrorism, they're killing, they want to kill us, they want to destroy the West, they want to destroy Israel. Who are these people?
and then you've got Joe Biden, who's called for de-escalation, but how much influence does he have?
Probably not a lot. Doesn't know what day of the week it is half the time. Anyway, let's move on to the top stories of the day. We're delighted to be joined by author and broadcaster Jenny Trent-Hughes and former Apprentice star Trey Lowe. Good morning to you both. Thank you for returning.
Good morning.
So many good stories doing the rounds today in the papers. What about Gary Lineker? So there was this, if you're not familiar at home, there was this leaked letter doing the rounds a few days ago. Gary Lineker's last show, apparently, according to BBC bosses, was meant to be tonight on the last episode of Match of the Day. They've neither confirmed or denied it, which leaves this big cloud of mystery. So, Trey, if he does leave tonight, will it be a loss to Match of the Day?
Oh, God, it'll be a huge loss. He's been there for 25 years, right? I mean, a quarter of a century seeing this one face. I don't know, I mean, don't quote me on that. I believe it is 25 years that he's been at the helm. However long it's been a long time, to the point that when I think Match of the Day, really, when I think of great football commentary, I do think Lineker. Even though, I mean, he was a Spurs man for a while, and I'm a Gooner.
Who do you support, Trey?
I'm a Gooner.
Yes.
Through and through.
Oh,
Goon.
yes.
Good man.
Goon, that's what I like.
And you,
Gooners
Jenny?
everywhere.
I'm singled
yes,
out.
indeed.
I'm singled out on the sofa.
A sofa full of Arsenal
Who do you
fans.
support?
Man United.
Whatever,
United.
you're a bit terrible at the moment. But I think it's... I mean, why not just say, if he's going to leave. As far as I know, his contract goes up to the end of the 2025 season, right? So what's going on? Why is all the mystery? Why apparently he was upset when it was brought up that it was leaked, etc. Tell us, if you're going to leave, because I'm going to be interested in who is actually going to fill those boots.
Do we think that it was sort of not a long time coming, but all the controversy, and we were talking about Israel and the Middle East conflict, and he's weighed in on things such as that. Is this something that we saw being inevitable? Jenny?
I think so, because I think that he's become, over the past couple of years, more socially conscious, more politically active, and they keep trying to clip his wings. And at this stage of the game, he doesn't need any more fame, probably doesn't particularly need much more money, and I think he just wants to be himself. He also might be tired of the BBC management by now.
He was doorstepped by a Daily Mail reporter yesterday at his London home, and do you know what he said?
What did he say?
He said, F off.
Way to go.
Short and sweet.
So the Times report this morning, the BBC's... they've refused to disown the draft email announcing Gary Lineker's departure. As claims grow, the Beeb is in witch hunt mode over the leaks. So, interesting. You would have thought if it was rubbish, they would have just said, complete rubbish, don't know what you're talking about, the letter's fake. But I guess we'll see tonight on Match of the Day. Will he be saying goodbye? Will there be...
It'll be sad.
It's probably also a bargaining ploy by one or the other side over contract negotiations.
Maybe he wants to extend the contract.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the leaker.
Yeah.
Right, all of these conspiracies now. Who do we think should replace him? Any ideas, guys, from football fans in the studio today? It was going to be Ginas, wasn't it?
Yeah, and without the
Ginas.
controversy, I probably would have said Jermaine Ginas. I probably would have said, because, you know, he's football through and through. I think he's got a bit of charisma. I think you're going to need charisma to...
But you're going to need some level of gravitas.
You don't think Ginas would have had the depth needed?
He's 12.
12 plus.
If he's 12,
I know. God, I should get my winter fuel allowance at my age.
He needs to have silver hair and be sexy, whoever it is.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy that does Match of the Day too,
Mark Chapman.
Yeah, I think he would be a safe pair of hands.
He's the favourite to be Lineker's replacement. I just think if you're going to tune into Match of the Day, you're just there for the football, really. I don't care who presents it. You could get somebody on 100k a year and save the licence fee payers.
Don't you think it makes a difference, though, who presents it? Remember, like, Des Lynam and the people like that?
Yeah, Des.
Exactly.
He was the best.
It makes a difference when you've got somebody you just think...
Yeah.
You just know it's going to be worth watching.
Oh, I'm swayed.
Sometimes games are rubbish, but the host makes it interesting.
Oh, my flimsy arguments come apart.
Favourite football analysts like Thierry Henry does a really good job.
Yeah.
Micah Richards does a good job.
Micah Richards is very good.
Yeah,
he's
good, isn't he?
very
He's
good.
also-
I listen to him on the radio, and he's really good.
Well, maybe we might have a female do that. I mean, you got... Is it Gabby? I mean, there's
Gabby
a few...
Lowe. Well, yeah, Gabby,
yeah,
there's a few. Alex
it could be
Scott,
anyone.
who's former Arsenal,
Exactly,
she's very
would be
good.
really
Yeah.
good. So the field is quite open.
OK, should we move on to the Daily Express? 1 in 4 pensioners over 80 are reportedly losing their winter fuel support due to Labour's axing of the scheme. Trey, you're quite passionate about this, aren't you?
I am. Look, I look after both my parents who are in their 80s, who are not that well, and it might be a bit far-fetched when I say it, but I think over 80 should be a protected species. I think the fact that they've given to their country for so long, if we've got money for wars, we must have money to look after our over 80s. Yeah. You know, I think whatever they want, have it. It should be on an opt-out basis. If they're wealthy enough to think, I don't need that, 100 quid or 300 pounds, whatever it is, fine. But I think just the thought of anyone over 80 dying from a lack of heat, because that's the choice for a lot of people, is something that should not be tolerated at all. Whatever it costs. And I think it costs, what, 2 billion, is it? It's not that much.
Not a lot.
Labour just spent 22 billion on a carbon project.
Yeah.
So how can you not have 2 billion for, you know, and fuel prices have gone through the roof. Most people can't afford it.
Jenny?
Well, I've said it on this programme before, but they say that you can tell the worth of a country by how they treat their elderly.
Amen.
And I think that there's so many ways in which we really, really fall down.
Yeah.
What do we think about the means testing to this?
I don't agree. I think, like Trey and I were talking earlier, give it to everybody, and then people have the decency to say, well, actually, I don't need it, you know, take it back.
Yeah, simple, yeah. It should be an opt-out basis.
Also, just politically, it's a bit... I just find it bizarre. I mean, morally is one thing, but politically, for Labour, the first couple of weeks to announce that policy, it just doesn't make sense. It's just not a very good political move.
No, I don't know why they've done it,
Such a paltry amount, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with votes, Ben?
Votes? Well, I mean, the Tory voters are, I guess, the stereotype is they are elderly and... Yeah, but, I mean... But they've lost so much goodwill.
Strategic, I suppose.
I think
Starmer's lost so much goodwill from even his own Labour MPs.
You're not going to get no votes. Who's going to be OK with someone in their 80s sort of freezing during winter? No one.
Well, the thing that I wonder about is how long was this in the pipeline? Because they didn't show up at Westminster and go, I know what we'll do tomorrow. You know, so you know that people have been researching this, planning it, looking at the ins and outs of it for a very long time.
It does seem rather unsocialist, doesn't it?
It wasn't in their manifesto, as far as I'm aware, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Well, there you go.
No, a lot of things weren't in their manifesto, and yet they're the good guys, apparently. They're virtuous and, Saint Sir Keir Starmer, or Free Geek here, as you lovely viewers at home like to call him. Anyway, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Trey, for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Still to come, we're going to be speaking to entrepreneur Adam Pope about his inspirational journey from living on the streets to running a £5 million law firm. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News. Back in just a few minutes.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Right, we're having beans this morning.
Beans for breakfast. There's no better breakfast, is there?
I like beans on toast for breakfast.
So do I. I would actually call myself a baked beans connoisseur.
Would you? Well, we can put you to the test. Tell us what the story is.
The story is, you might think beans, you might think Heinz. Heinz means beans.
Beans means Heinz.
Beans means Heinz. Heinz means beans. Who knows? So, of all of the supermarket baked beans, it is actually the Aldi supermarket version, this version over here, which came out on top. The Bramwell's baked beans, 76% on the taste test.
And they're much cheaper as well.
Much cheaper. Households can save, if you're buying 2 cans a week, £100 a year buying the Aldi version of these baked beans. So we thought we're going to do a blind taste test this morning to see.
So we've got the Aldi beans, we've got M&S beans, and we've got beans Heinz. So I think number 2 is the best one.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
2 came first best to me.
So the Heinz is number 3.
Interesting.
Which was the worst one?
Which is the worst one, which is the ones, actually, I'll buy it home.
Do you know what? That's just proven it. M&S was number 1. And Aldi was number 2, which was our favourite as well.
I said M&S.
Yeah, and we both said Aldi.
We did say Aldi. I have to be honest, I was not expecting that.
I told you. This is a hill I will die on. These are the beans that I get at home, and I love them.
At university, you get the tin that's half that size, and it was 21p for the store ones and 23p for Heinz baked beans. And as I say, the key was in the thickness of the sauce and how hard the beans were.
They actually are really nice.
Stunning.
I am really surprised, and we buy more than 2 cans a week, so it saved me a couple of £100.
We get through 2 cans.
So you like the Aldi ones?
I like the Aldi ones. I'm shocked.
They're a lot cheaper. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm flustered. I just had to run from the bathroom back to the seat in about 30 seconds.
Everything all right?
Yeah, everything's fine. It's great. Just a little touch-up, that's all. Right, shall we move on to our next topic today? And, of course, Boris Johnson has revealed he got on well with both Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, calling the couple brilliant in an interview with GB News' Camilla Tominey.
Yeah, that's from 9:30 tomorrow, by the way. Don't miss it. And discussing why he tried to stop Megxit, the former PM said Meghan was, quote, articulate and Harry was a national asset. Have a listen.
Prince Harry and Meghan, in my view, they came to an event we did for female education. They were brilliant. And she was particularly good and articulate and on it and on the detail.
So you got on quite well with Meghan?
Yeah. I got on well with both of them. And I also worked with Harry when he did his Invictus Games for disabled veterans in the Olympic Park. And so in a sort of, fit of pomposity, I thought, this national asset is leaving our country. I think he's a force on the whole, could be on the whole a force for good. I'm going to try and discourage him. And so I had a pathetic attempt at that. It didn't work.
No.
And there you go. I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit.
Yes, he did deliver Brexit, but couldn't save Megxit from happening. Of course, there are reports this week saying that he was whisked down to the Docklands to have a 20-minute pep talk with Prince Harry to convince him not to stay. Not to go.
Didn't he deny that at first? So there were reports saying that he didn't actually say that. But alas, we've got all of the latest gossip from his book, Unleashed, and of course, his interview with GB News' Camilla Tominey tomorrow from, is it 9:30?
From 9:30. So grab a bacon butty, cup of tea, cup of coffee, settle down on the sofa and enjoy the big interview from Camilla from 9:30 tomorrow.
Right. From rags to riches, Adam Pope has overcome a lot.
Yes, in his 20s, he ended up living on the streets of Bolton, couch surfing and just scraping by, quite frankly, while battling an alcohol and drug addiction.
But Adam managed to turn things around, finding himself working in financial services and then, by a twist of fate, landing in law.
He founded a law firm called Spencer Churchill, which has achieved to date a £5 million turnover in just 5 years. And joining us in the studio now to tell the story of his journey is the CEO of Spencer Churchill, Adam Pope. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. And what a story indeed.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Troubled by alcohol, by drugs, you nearly went to prison. How old were you when you were going through all this turmoil?
So in my early 20s. It was a culmination of a lot of bad choices, a misspent youth, and like you say, it nearly resulted in a couple of times me being sent to prison, not for anything major, but nevertheless, I could have easily spent some jail time and basically ruined my whole future. Thankfully, I was able to pull myself out of that, and I lived to be able to tell the tale, achieve some things as I've got older, so yeah. When
you say misspent youth, what are you referring to? Was it just the people around you? Was it an upbringing situation?
I come from a really good background, a really good family. I was like a one-man gang, basically. I was just on this self-destruction path. I just had these impulses to do certain things. I like fighting, joyriding, that sort of thing. The thing that I nearly got sent to prison for in the end was driving while disqualified, not once, twice, but 3 times. So it took me 3 times to sort of learn my lesson. But yeah, thankfully, it's one of those things where you come to the brink, right, need to make the change, and I've never looked back from that point.
And fast forward to today, ironically, you now run this massive law firm, £5 million turnover. I mean, was it anything to do with your brush with the law and court appearances that inspired you to start a law firm eventually?
Absolutely, yeah. I've always known that I would run my own business one day. I've been fired from every job I've ever had, and I think that was a lot to do with I wanted to do things my way. I had my own ideas. So, yeah, I've been able to channel all of those experiences growing up right through to present day.
Now, when you say you've redefined what it means to lead a law firm, what do you mean?
So I effectively come from the streets. I've got the benefit of sort of being a street guy right the way through to be able to mix with people that are from educating backgrounds, wealthy backgrounds, and everybody in the middle. So we're very different as a firm. So how I dress today is how we are as a firm. So I've closed some multi-million-pound transactions dressed very similar as I am. So that's my brand, that's my firm's brand. We're disruptors, that's what we're often referred to as, because we relate to people from middle of the road, council estates, often which are the ones that have achieved the greatest things in business. So we give people a different choice than the typical pinstripe suit, bowler hat lawyer.
And do you also apply that philosophy to the briefs, the solicitors you hire?
Yeah.
Particularly look out for people who maybe haven't come from a traditional background, for example?
Absolutely, yeah. Our culture is people that have come from down-to-earth, normal backgrounds. That's something that I look for specifically. I don't hire anybody else that doesn't fit that personality profile.
You're quite an inspiration, Ben, and what would you say... Adam, sorry, Adam! Well, Ben is as well, but, you know, Adam, sorry, you are an inspiration, and I think someone like yourself, who, like you said, you came from kind of a troubled youth, not in terms of your family background, but in terms of the choices that you made. And I think often, and I've got friends who have told me the same thing, older friends who've said they were always judged in school by the choices they made, and they were told you're never going to amount to anything. What would your words of wisdom be to young ones who are kind of a bit maybe unruly like you were?
So,
you know, that doesn't have to define you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. And I think I'm an example of, and this is why I want to share my story, that you can turn it around. It's not too late to start, no matter what age you start. I started my business at age 35. Which is not too young, it's not too old, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. And I just seized an opportunity that I came across at the time, and I've never looked back, basically. So I want to share my story that, you know, I've been through a lot of challenging times. I've been homeless, for example. I spent 6 months on the streets, couch surfing, staying with family, wherever I would be put up, basically, right the way through to some of the things that I've shared with you today and other things. So yeah, it's never too late to start. I think I want to be an example that no matter where you start from, you can still achieve things in life as long as you apply yourself well.
Amazing. And Adam works with boxers as well. You work with the likes of world champions like Ebony Bridges, Olympians like Chantel Cameron. So working with big names.
And I guess, Adam, all it comes down to is just, are you going to choose to be a victim or not? Are you going to be a victim of your circumstance? Or do you want to use it to inspire you to do better things?
Well, I think I'm an example of the exact opposite to that. A few people have mentioned over the last few years, do you think you've got ADHD? And if you'd have said that a few years ago, I said no. But the more I've looked into it, I think I definitely have. I'm going through a diagnosis process at the moment. So again, I just want to be an example of people that may have ADHD or do have ADHD, that you can use it as a superpower as opposed to a thing that can hold you back or limit choices.
Good mentality. Adam Hope, thank you for being with us. You're an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Pleasure to meet you.
thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sam Francis has all your news headlines.
Touch and go there, but I am definitely Sam Francis. Ben got it wrong yesterday, nailed it that time. Let's start with news from the Middle East. And British nationals are still fleeing Lebanon with the fourth and now final evacuation flight set for Sunday as the conflict there intensifies. Over 250 people have already returned to the UK on government-chartered planes, but Foreign Secretary David Lammy is warning others to register now, as future flights, he says, aren't guaranteed. Well, it comes as Israel ramps up airstrikes hitting Beirut and Hezbollah targets. You can see there on your screen smoke hanging in the air above Beirut's skyline as those strikes continue. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has responded by launching 100 rockets into Israeli territory. Meanwhile, the UK has sent another £10 million in aid to Lebanon, and troops are stationed in Cyprus for a potential military-led evacuation. And just staying on that topic from the Middle East for just a few seconds, we're just hearing from the Reuters news agency that the Israeli search for the anticipated next leader of Hezbollah is currently being held up by the destruction caused by a recent strike. So at this stage, they are saying that the anticipated next leader of the terror group Hezbollah is currently unreachable, his whereabouts unknown, and not yet able to confirm whether he is indeed alive or dead. So that latest line just coming to us from Reuters. Meanwhile, here in the UK, a major police operation is planned across the capital, London, this weekend as protests and memorials mark the anniversary of the 7th of October attacks in Israel. Today's demonstration, organised by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, will see protesters march from Russell Square to Whitehall. Around 100 so far have gathered, we understand. And a counter-protest will also take place, while on Sunday, Jewish groups will hold a memorial event in Hyde Park. The Met Police say they have plans to ensure public safety, with officers in contact with organisers. Boris Johnson is gearing up to release his new memoir titled Unleashed, and in a sit-down with Camilla Tominey here on GB News, the former Prime Minister warned it would be a disaster if Sir Keir Starmer tries to reverse Brexit. He also reaffirmed his belief in Brexit, claiming it's given the UK the freedom to act more decisively. Take a listen.
What do you think Starmer and Reeves are trying to reverse Brexit?
So if we'd been a rules... This is the key point. If we... Yeah, of course they are. Now, if we'd been a rules taker...
Yes.
At the end of 2020, 2021, we would not have been able to authorise AstraZeneca and Pfizer.
Agree.
No, but you keep interrupting this because it's very, very important. And that was how, by March 2021, we had vaccinated 45% of the UK population.
The vaccine programme
compared to
will always
10%.
be part of your legacy.
And you can, of course, watch that full hour-long interview with Camilla Tominey and Boris Johnson here on GB News tomorrow from 9:30 and again in the evening. Hurricane Kirk is set to bring heavy rain and strong winds to the UK by midweek next week as it sweeps across the Atlantic. The Met Office is warning that the storm's remnants could cause disruption across parts of England and Wales on Wednesday and Thursday. This weekend, though, we'll see sunshine and showers with highs of 18 degrees before the arrival of Kirk. Rain will hit Northern Ireland and Scotland today, easing by this afternoon. The exact track of the storm, though, is still uncertain, but the southern areas are expected to be the worst affected. And from just 13 runners to now millions, Parkrun is marking its 20th anniversary today. The global running movement, which began with just a handful of people in London in 2004, now spans over 2,500 locations in more than 20 countries. The Parkrun founder, who started the 5K events to aid his recovery from injury, says Parkrun has now grown into a force for both physical and mental health. It's now recommended by thousands of GPs worldwide, with weekly events registering over 10 million people. Quick secret, Tatiana's never even run 5K. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll hand you straight back to Ben and Tatiana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Please tell me that we're British. In our darkest hour, we can work around this. The beer will still be flowing at Christmas. Tell me, please.
Martin, without using bad language, there's no words to describe that this is another major blow to the hospitality sector. I wake up every day with anxiety thinking, what's going to happen to us now? Oh my God, now the weather's against us. Not only are the government absolutely battering us, then the weather's now hitting us as well.
Kate Stewart, this can only mean one thing. Prices, once again, going through the roof.
And there's nothing we can do. We have on costs. We have to buy from the brewery. We have the VAT. We have then the VAT, what we take. It is an absolute nightmare To be in the pub game now, Martin, is very, very difficult. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everything just keeps hammering us from every different direction. And obviously, we have to pass that on to the customers, then price increases. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to sell beer at an inflated price. We want it as cheap as possible to get people through them doors. But we have no option. They're going to go up again in the new budget. You know, there's no help for us. What are we supposed to do, Martin, except the only option is to close the doors and say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. I absolutely cry my eyes out having to put the prices up because you think, oh, my God, people are just going to turn away and walk. But we can't swallow the costs all the time, Martin. It's impossible for us to do because we will go bankrupt. There has to be, there's inflation getting hammered on us yet again, and we have to pass it on. I feel it when I take my children out for something to eat. You're like, wow, that has just cost a fortune. But what is the answer? The answer is the government needs to look at saving the hospitality sector and stop being so greedy in everything that they take away from us, or there won't be pubs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello, welcome back. 11:40. Ben and Tatiana with you on Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News, and we're joined by the Showbiz juggernaut, Def Tetchy, in the studio with all the latest Showbiz goss.
Absolutely love that word, juggernaut.
Name now.
Showbiz juggernaut.
Get used to it.
I need to trademark it.
So what's going on?
Guys, Strictly, obviously it's back on screens, but Nick Knowles, DIY host, he has suffered a bad fall this week in training, so he's had to pull out the show. He was practicing, this week's going to be movie week on Strictly, and he was practicing the Charleston with his dance partner Lineker, and unfortunately he's injured his knee, so he's had to pull out. And this follows last week where actually he was battling an arm and shoulder injury because he said he was trying to change a tyre on the road, so he's had to pull out. The thing from the beginning, Nick Knowles says that he's now 62. He said it was always going to be a bit of a hit and miss for him to do Strictly physically, but it seems like he's brought those words to life because he is suffering so many physical ailments, so he will not be taking part in Strictly this week, but he won't be eliminated, and hopefully he'll be back next week. He says he's adamant to get back on the dance floor, even if it means he's got a glitter crutches on the dance floor.
Gosh. I'm just reading he's gone for an MRI scan as
He
well.
has, and it just goes to show with Strictly. I think people think ballroom dancing's quite easy, but it's not. There's a technique to it, and if you're new and you haven't danced before, there is this kind of space where you can get injuries from it, as he's proved. So wishing him a speedy recovery.
It'll get you.
It will. It will.
Time will get you.
It will.
That, but I tweaked something putting a coat on the other day.
Ooh. Yeah, it's just one little wrong move and that's it.
Are you saying you're knocking on a bit?
No, you're still young, babe. You're young, babe.
Parkrun's not for me.
No, it's not for me either. I'm too glam, sorry.
Right, well, some good news.
Yes.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, you know, she's made about almost $1 billion from her Eras tour, but she's not someone who likes to hoard money. She's been giving back to charities, and while she was in the UK, it's just come out that she donated to a charity called Trussell's, and she donated a generous amount of money that they've been able to feed 925 people with emergency food parcels. So that is just staggering. She didn't need to do that, but it goes to show if you share your money, it can go a very long way. And Taylor Swift likes doing that. She likes any city she goes to, she likes making donations to food banks. She made one in Liverpool, Cardiff and London, but now obviously they've come out Trussell's and said that because of what she's done, she's fed lots of people.
Do you know how much she's given, or did she just say? Did
They never revealed the amount, but she managed to feed 925 people, and that is just amazing. I don't even think our government's doing that at the moment for people who are facing poverty. So good on Taylor Swift.
Well done, Taylor. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't think I ever will be, but I will congratulate you.
You will one day. It's my aim, Ben.
Naomi Campbell, what has she been up to?
Naomi is the opposite from Taylor now. She had a charity called Fashion for Relief. Last week, the Charity Commission has banned her for 5 years for being a charity trustee after it came out that she was mismanaging funds. And now she's come out and she said she has messed up as a trustee. You know, over its 9-year period, it mecked up £4.8 million and only 10% of that went to charities. So
hang on a minute. They received nearly £5 million in donations.
Yeah, and only 10%, Ben, only went to charities.
And what did the rest go on?
Went on luxury spas, expenses, all the rest. But Naomi's come out and she said she wasn't guilty of any financial misconduct. Obviously, the Charity Commission feel otherwise. But she's been banned for 5 years and there is a lot of questions. She owns a lot of people, including the Save the Children, the Mayor for London's fund. She said that she had worked with UNICEF on one of the charity balls that she had, and that was found to be incorrect. So Naomi Campbell has been in the hot water here. I think the public in general, they're very sceptical about donating to celebrities and their charities, but unfortunately for Naomi, she hasn't won the trust of the public here.
Even charities in general, I reckon over, I'd say 5 years, they've taken a real... There's been so many stories. I remember doing stories about, I won't name them, but certain animal charities, squandering funds, and it makes you wonder, £5 million and only 10% is going to the causes that people think they're donating to.
Well, that's the problem. And you think to yourself, well, I've interviewed Naomi many times, love her, but I just think, you know, for someone who's financially wealthy like Naomi Campbell, it doesn't make sense not to be given the money to where it's owned. But, you know, in her defence, she says, you know, she wasn't the best trustee. Maybe she wasn't aware of the day-to-day operations, what's going on. But the Charity Commission had been investigating this for the past 2 years. So clearly they have a case against her.
All right, Steph, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Naomi Campbell has said roughly in a statement that she wasn't actively engaged in the charity's day-to-day operations, but she's never engaged in any form of financial misconduct. So there we go.
Still to come, we'll be joined in the studio by Love is Blind stars Kat Richards and Jake Singleton-Hill. Stay with us.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Please tell me that we're British. In our darkest hour, we can work around this. The beer will still be flowing at Christmas. Tell me, please.
Martin, without using bad language, there's no words to describe that this is another major blow to the hospitality sector. I wake up every day with anxiety thinking, what's going to happen to us now? Oh, my God, now the weather's against us. Not only are the government absolutely battering us, then the weather's now hitting us as well.
Kate Stewart, this can only mean one thing. Prices, once again, going through the roof.
And there's nothing we can do. We have on costs. We have to buy from the brewery. We have the VAT. We have then the VAT, what we take. It is an absolute nightmare. To be in the pub game now, Martin, is very, very difficult. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everything just keeps hammering us from every different direction. And obviously, we have to pass that on to the customers, then price increases. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to sell beer at an inflated price. We want it as cheap as possible to get people through them doors. But We have no option. They're going to go up again in the new budget. You know, there's no help for us. What are we supposed to do, Martin, except the only option is to close the doors and say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. I absolutely cry my eyes out having to put the prices up, because you think, oh my God, people are just going to turn away and walk. But we can't swallow the costs all the time, Martin. It's impossible for us to do, because we will go bankrupt. There has to be, there's inflation getting hammered on us yet again, and we have to pass it on. I feel it when I take my children out for something to eat. You're like, wow, that has just cost a fortune. But what is the answer? The answer is the government needs to look at saving the hospitality sector and stop being so greedy in everything that they take away from us, or there won't be pubs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Saturday Morning Live, and now we have a couple who both tried to find love in quite an unconventional way, a blind way, you might say.
There you are. Catherine Richards and Jake Singleton-Hill featured on the reality show Love is Blind, and it's a massive show, actually, a hit show. I often catch my wife watching it. I come in and I'm like, oh, what's this? Very interesting.
I absolutely loved it. I cried at the end. I won't give it away for those who haven't seen it. But whilst they didn't find love on the show, or maybe they did, in the end they didn't, Catherine later sent Jake a message, and the rest is history. Well, Catherine and Jake are joining us now in the studio for Saturday Morning Live. Thank you very much for joining us. And this is perhaps not the end result that people might have thought that they'd be seeing at this point, because you were both on the show, but you didn't fall in love in the pods, did you?
No,
we didn't.
I rejected him. Very early.
Tell us about that.
8 minutes.
We had 8 minutes, so I was like, no. So Jake was my last date of the day, so 15 guys, 15 girls, and we both dated each other. By the end, we were both like robots. It's like, my name's Kat, and he was like, yeah, my name's Jake, I share a dog with my ex. I was like, yeah, bye. That was literally where it finished.
We were shattered,
yeah, we were shattered.
Steph, you're here with us because you're a mega fan.
I binge-watched that whole series. You were like one of my favourite characters, and just seeing, I'm surprised about this, because obviously we thought it was you and Freddie that was going to be the match made in heaven.
Still thinking, like, I don't know, I think people think Freddie's hiding in our closet or something, like he's going to appear one day. No, he definitely won't, I can tell you that.
I was surprised though, because, and it's nice that you guys look great together.
Yeah.
Very happy as well.
People say I look like Freddie, but...
Yes, you've got a type.
No, I don't.
On the show, it seemed like you guys were really strong, and it almost seemed like Freddie, after he admitted to you that he'd cheated in the past, things were done.
Yeah,
it kind of felt like he did some making up, and then the roles changed at some point.
Yeah. So with the whole Freddie cheating thing, I actually respected the fact that he told me up front. I didn't even want to have that conversation, obviously. That was a conversation that we got told to talk about. And I respected his decision, but I think he felt that I was holding this grudge towards him that she really doesn't like, and which was not, and he knew this, because off camera we had many conversations where I was like, thank you for owning up, like, we can just move on from this. But if anything, I think he just felt guilty the whole entire time, and he put that on me, which is fine, but yeah. There's obviously a lot that people don't see.
But fans felt devastated for you because, you know, you guys on your wedding day, he did, you know, he rejected you in that sense.
Yeah, he did. It was tough because I've watched the show and I've seen the stuff that he said in our interviews. I was like, oh, he said that, you know, he could see me as his potential wife. So obviously when he said no, I was a bit like, oh, like at the time.
So for viewers who don't know, Love is Blind is where you go and seek love and romance, but you don't see who you're speaking to, right?
No.
So, Jake, why did you go on the show? I mean, what was your love journey before that? Why did you eventually end up going?
That's why I want it.
So my parents actually met in a very similar way. So my stepdad was texting my mum. He'd basically stolen the number off of a friend because the friend had met my mum in Blackpool, and they were texting for like 6 months. They'd never met. So that premise of how they got together and the marriage that they had was stunning. And to build a relationship not based on looks before you met, I just found that just incredible.
So do you believe in that concept? Is it lust or love at first sight?
It's weird.
It's a bit of both.
I think, it's definitely a bit of both. I do think in a relationship, there is some sort of, you need attraction, right? You do.
Need chemistry.
But personality is massive, and I think if you love someone's personality, you will love them for them. And I always say, as you get older, your looks will change, but your personality will stay the same.
Yeah.
So I do love the whole experiment, and it has worked for some couples, as we do know, but when you've got thousands of camera crew, it's hard.
Did you have a good overall experience on the show? Would you recommend other people going on it as well?
I recommend it if you're thick skin. And if you know there's going to be bumps and it is broadcasted like worldwide on Netflix. So you got to be a certain...
Well, thank you.
It teaches you a lot about yourself.
How has the public's reaction been to you, Catherine? Because, I did...
Sorry to interject, Steph. We're fast out of time. We will come crashing out there. Thank you, Jake and Catherine, for being with us. Really appreciate it.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you at home for joining us on Saturday Morning Live. Dawn Neeson is next. We'll catch you at the same time next week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead into Sunday, it's going to be turning cloudier with spells of rain and then showery as we go into the new week. But largely settled conditions out there through this afternoon as higher pressure is situated towards the east. Further towards the west, low pressure and frontal systems across Northern Ireland, that bringing some heavy spells of rain towards the west, but also across the West Country this evening, some heavy spells of rain across Devon and Cornwall. As that moves its way towards the north and east, generally fizzling out as it does so, but bringing increasing amounts of cloud across the UK. There may be some clear spells to see the northern lights towards the north, but otherwise temperatures generally mild at around 10 or 11 degrees. Now, as we go through Sunday morning, some clear skies to start the day, especially across northern parts of Scotland. So here, a bright start to the morning. Further towards the west, largely cloudy with outbreaks of rain. And across Northern Ireland, some patchy outbreaks of rain that could be quite heavy at times. Cloudy conditions across the northwest of England. But the best of the sunshine will really be focused across East Anglia as we start Sunday morning. But it won't last too long as the cloud will increase from the west, bringing in some outbreaks of rain and drizzle across much of the country through Sunday morning and into the afternoon. Further towards the west, we have a heavy band of thundery, showery rain pushing across Northern Ireland into South Wales and the West Country too. But generally, temperatures still holding up at around 17 or 18 degrees. So similar to today, but perhaps just a bit of a different feel given the cloudier conditions. Now, as we go through Sunday evening, that band of rain will continue to push its way north and eastwards, affecting much of northern England. But as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, it really is a case of sunny spells and scattered showers with highs of 17 to 18 degrees. Bye-bye.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You really could be our next big winner with an incredible £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. But what does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
So I just text as you do and then forgot about it.
Well, I didn't believe it at first. I just thought, somebody's trying to wind me up.
You never expect to win something like that.
Definitely get your interest in. If I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or